Hello, everyone. Welcome. Very privileged to be with Evan from Mysten Labs, and also Stephen Mackintosh, Chief Investment Officer of Sui. So the topic today is about digital asset treasury companies and the kind of convergence of DeFi and TradFi. This cycle is being characterized by, huge institutional flows, whether that be from ETFs, companies raising money to build a treasury company. Evan, what's your view about this convergence in the past year and what that means for ecosystem growth?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can talk about the institution flows, right? The potential has always been there. The institution has been looking. Now we have multiple entry points, ways to on-ramp institution money into the ecosystem. But this year, I think we're going to see more interesting play around, as you say, the TradFi and DeFi convergence. So the way I look at it is the TradFi is in terms of product, from consumer, for other is T+1 or T+ whatever, while DeFi is T+0. That's the sort of, could be strictly a better product, could be viewed as sort of the extension of TradFi.
Okay.
So, very exciting stuff.
And Stephen, from an investment standpoint, from an investment perspective, what have the flows been like in the past year with the rise of the DAT, the rise of the ETFs, the rise of all of these different products? How have the flows been from your side?
Well, I think 2025 was a landmark year for kind of institutional adoption. You saw obviously the DAT boom, which has been very excited. And obviously, there's been a lot of market volatility following the summer of last year, which we're used to in crypto if you've been in it for a few years. But I think post the Genius Act, we've seen so much more institutional demand and awareness for what the promise of crypto could deliver, especially as it relates to traditional finance. When I speak to some of our investors who joined us in Sui, they really are kind of desperate to understand how is tokenization, how a stablecoin is going to affect their industry, and more importantly, what type of new use cases can you build on the blockchain? And being able to represent Sui as part of that conversation is really interesting because Sui is quite a differentiated proposition among what is a very competitive blockchain market. Sui being obviously the team that spun out from Facebook that built the Libra and Diem initiatives, that built an object-orientated blockchain that allows for really low latency and high throughput, and a very different design model that can essentially bring new use cases to life. The type of industries that I think will be unlocked by Sui in the next few years will be the kind of the merging of crypto and AI. Previously, I ran an artificial intelligence company that I sold to a New York Stock Exchange listed acquirer. And I've spent, a lot of time recently thinking about the agentic commerce future. And I think that Sui is uniquely placed to really unlock many of the promises of crypto and AI together because of its unique blockchain infrastructure. And when I speak to institutional investors or sell-side investment banks like Cantor Fitzgerald, to Jefferies, to Citizens Bank, who've actually covered Sui with Sui Group Holdings with some really interesting equity research coverage. They're really, targeting in on that, that explosion of agentic commerce, which I think Sui will be at the heart of.
Okay. And the kind of pitfalls, the being devil's advocate of this, what are the, you talk about ecosystem velocity. What are some of the infrastructural bottlenecks that emerge from, so much capital, so much attention, and so much, general adoption coming to Sui, for example?
I mean, I think it's more interest is generally better. So it's I don't think there's actually conflict with institutional interest and sort of this kind of the decentralization kind of spirit. The decentralization is about the technology. It's really about trust. So whether it's the institution, whether it's the developer, whether it's the individual, that's still very important. In fact, it's even more important as more automation is happening, right? So when people talk about agentic or AI, it's really automating everything.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be even more important. It doesn't really matter if it's it's coming from institution interest or
interesting.
Not. Yeah.
I guess on that, DeFi is will it be something entirely different to TradFi, or will they converge and just become the same product, maybe under a different guise, a different name? But
yeah. I mean, I think it's going to take some time to work out, but I believe it's a convergence of the two, or the extension, TradFi extends TradFi. I mean, DeFi extends TradFi. Just give you a very simple example, right? So if you are somebody who is using an app to buy gold, right, through the normal TradFi channel, there's not a lot you can do with it other than holding it. You may have to sort of think about moving it to a different market to collateralize it and use it. While TradFi could potentially say, hey, this is a tokenized gold, and you acquire, and immediately you can collateralize and borrow against it and use that proceeds for DeFi strategy and whatnot.
Right.
And I think this kind of product experience is going to show up this year, and that's going to be a first taste what the convergence of the two will look like.
Interesting. And on a you know a real level, the capital coming in from ETFs, from digital asset treasury companies, do you see them as a bridge to DeFi on Sui, or do you see them as potentially a competitor to DeFi on blockchains or Sui in general?
I think the ETF yet to evolve. I think I mean, if you look at right now, ETF is mostly on-ramp for institution money. Maybe they're not going to be touching, DeFi yet, but you have more creative products.
Yeah.
So other on-ramps that allow you to have the benefit of DeFi, right? And you can start with maybe ETF will start also kind of earning yields for the holders.
Yeah.
That's the first step. So I wouldn't want to define that market as it stands today. It's going to change.
Okay. And Stephen, there's clearly a huge amount of institutional interest in the crypto market, in Sui in particular. Are the institutions waiting on the sidelines for the regulatory approval in order to dive into DeFi, to stake, to have, even trading firms employing staking strategies, looping strategies? Are we at that point where we're just waiting for the green light from regulators?
Yeah, I think already there are, incumbent, finance institutions that are entering the space quite aggressively. If you look at, post FTX, like big market makers kind of pulled away. There was a lot of kind of caution, but look at what's happened recently. Some of the biggest kind of trading firms in the world have really got back into crypto: Citadel, Jane Street, and the like, right? Similarly, you have the Clarity Act, which is still, being kind of tossed around in Congress. I think it would be an incredible unlock for our industry if that gets passed. I think we have a moment in time to pass it, and I really hope that, all of the political actors can get together and get some progress. I think, a bad bill is worse than no bill at the moment, to be really honest. I think you've got to get progress. In regard to, institutional demand, I think that, 2025 kind of really showcased to the world that there was latent demand in institutions that was, really unlocked in the DAT summer, and also with just like the amount of, volume that's come through the Bitcoin ETF, the most successful ETF launch in history. And similarly, if you look at the deleveraging that took place like 2 weeks ago, right? That is a consequence of how institutional the Bitcoin trades become. You've got huge hedge funds doing the carry trade, like the Millenniums of the world. You've got a very, fluid options market. I mean, the options volume that went through when Bitcoin went from 80 to 60 the other week was the greatest ever, I think, volume kind of intraday number we've seen. And so that shows you how sophisticated this is becoming. Also, you've got the likes of Broadridge, DTCC, getting involved. You've got ICE and NASDAQ talking about tokenized stocks. The market actually, despite all of the sentiment being low, has never been greater for crypto. And I think that sometimes you've got to separate the signal from the noise, that the long-term trend is on. We're seeing the biggest kind of institutions of finance in the world aggressively make investments in human capital and infrastructure to take a piece of this market. And that's going to continue unabated for the next 10 years. As it regards to Sui, I think that we've seen, a lot of excitement about what the Sui blockchain can deliver, especially given its origin story at Facebook and the fact that it's not just a one-dimensional blockchain. They've built an entire stack around this blockchain that's kind of composable and connected. They've built Walrus for decentralized programmable storage, Nautilus for verified off-chain compute, Seal for secrets management. And that's like akin to what you saw with the proliferation of the SaaS industry and the cloud industry in the previous 10 years. Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, they had Kubernetes, they had compute, querying, analytics. That whole kind of composition of a stack is what allowed the SaaS industry to flourish. And if you look at the Sui blockchain, the team have built all of those different kind of pillars of infrastructure that will allow these new use cases of the future to be unlocked. I think I talked about agentic commerce previously. It is really important that we get new things in crypto. We've seen a lot of like copy and paste stuff over the past like 7 or 8 years. Obviously, we've got real product market fit with stable coins, with borrow lending markets like Aave, with perps trading, but we do need new experiences, and that's why the Sui team and the Sui blockchain proposition is very interesting. When I speak to investors on Wall Street, it's that kind of the coming new use cases, the meeting of AI and crypto that makes Sui a really interesting topic of conversation. And I think, the kind of institutional products around Sui, other than Sui G, like the Van Eck of this world, Franklin Templetons, are all coming in. The Bitwises of this world are all coming in around Sui because it is the next like big opportunity kind of after Solana, I would say.
Interesting. And are you seeing builders as well sort of taking up that demand on Sui? Obviously, Sui uses a different programming language to Ethereum. Came from the Facebook engineers. Are you seeing there's a rush of developers and builders coming on chain and saying, look, how can we build our product here?
Well, we're the one of the fastest growing developer platform. In fact, I think there was 2 platforms that grew in the last year, and we're one of those. Once the market or the interest sort of in kind of tokenization, all these new kind of use cases starting to become more real, you will see that kind of growth reaccelerate as well.
Okay. In terms of Sui 2026, the market in general has had a downturn, which means active users are down, which means volumes are down. When do you see the trajectory turning up? Do you think we're in a consolidation period now where people are maybe waiting on the sidelines for the next catalyst to emerge?
I mean, again, separate the price action of all the crypto assets from the interest from the institutions and developers. For the later, the interest from institution and developer, we don't see any real shift. Maybe some DGen products are not surviving in this market, but real builders are definitely happening. There's more fintech kind of happening, building on chain. There's more institutions trying to figure things out. Part of the reason why I'm here. Asia is really a lot of interest, a lot of activities. And then everything will sort of kind of figure itself out on the price side, and that will draw even more sort of user and developer backing.
Interesting.
And just on that point about the builders, one of the great things that we've been able to do with Sui G is work obviously with the foundation, but in a kind of different, more commercial posture. So we have this kind of ambition to be like the Sui Bank, which means that we are focused on return for our shareholders, to drive a return on our balance sheet, but also to use our balance sheet to really like make businesses in the industry, as in the Sui ecosystem. We are launching a stable in partnership with the foundation and with Athena, which is going to be called Sui USD or eSui Dollar. And what's great about that is 90% of fees will go back to both Sui G and Sui Foundation to buy back Sui in the market or to DeFi. Traded company on NASDAQ that's got stablecoin revenue coming in. Our balance sheet is leading perps on Sui in exchange for kind of a revenue share. And we've got about 3 or 4 more really interesting ecosystem initiatives where we're going to use our balance sheet to foster the growth of DeFi. And that's like what a DAT can do. in conjunction with a partner like the foundation, which is really exciting.
Amazing. Okay, that's all we have time for. Really appreciate the guys alongside me, but thank you very much.